Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in. And today we have Zeeshan Amjad, who is also the president of US chapter of PA Society. And today the topic is very interesting. For me, this is very interesting. Actually, I forced Zeeshan somehow to let's talk about this particular thing. And the leadership is a topic Zeeshan is working from some time now. Now he has also published the second version of his leadership article that's also online now. And this particular article is also selected in the best agile articles. Zeeshan, is this correct?
Little bit outdated. Actually, published the third one now.
But today that we are talking about the particular topic, this was also selected, right?
Yes, we are discussing about the first one.
Okay, great. So shall we start, Zeeshan?
Sure.
And let me mute others. So there you go, Zeeshan. Please start.
Sure. And let me share my screen first. I hope you guys can see my screen now. Just let me know if that is not the case.
We can.
So this is our topic today, good leader to great leader. And a little bit of my introduction. Wait a minute, why this line is coming off? Something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. I have to remove that line. Now, interestingly, my Zoom disappears somehow. Am I still online? Yes, I'm still.
Yes, you are.
I thought maybe I dropped my call mistakenly, accidentally. Okay. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Finally. So this is a little bit of introduction of me. I have some of the certifications, and I'm actually published last year in Best Agile articles. Those are related to the coaching, and this year again the Best Agile article that is related to the leadership. And now we are going to discuss about the leadership. So let's start. And I am going to start with the Benjamin Franklin quote. And in case if you don't know Benjamin Franklin, so he's famous to call the president of the US who is never a president of the US. So he's the founding father, and the people who are already in US already familiar that in the $100 bills, they see the picture of the Benjamin Franklin. And they said that if you tell me, I forget. If you teach me, then I may remember. But if you involve me, then I will learn. And this is what we are trying to do today. I'm trying to involve you, and unlike the lot of other presentation here, I explicitly want you to unmute. So we are going to play some games, and I want to see the feeling of you and the experience of you when we are playing that game. So now the first question is, what is in for me? Why you are here? So let's make something clear. This is not another leadership model. So we are familiar, we probably are familiar with a lot of leadership models, and some of you are already saw a lot of leadership models. So this is not what we are going to discuss here. We are not discussing the leadership here. This is a completely new model. So I created this model, and this model is actually moving from good to great leadership. So you never heard this model before until unless you saw my work, you read my work. And this is also published in the Best Agile article 2020. So it means that it has some value in it. So it is not something like I saw in a dream and I just presented something, whether it got some recognition or not, whether the people agrees this thing or not. And Geeta is also with us, who was a part of that process also. So helping me a lot, proofreading me a lot. And I will be very thankful for Geeta for this thing. So this is what we are going to discuss today. And now why we are doing this thing? Because here we are going to create a history, or we will be a history. So that is the whole point. By the way, I just try to create this thing. I'm not sure whether this is already a proverb or not. I just try to play with the words. And we have some assumptions. And first of all, let's take a look at what is the assumptions. So assumptions are our window to see the world. And this is actually one of the very famous American writer, and who is actually by profession is a biochemist. So you can find a lot more detail on the internet if you want. And these are my assumptions. So my assumption is I'm not going to discuss the difference between what the manager is and what the leader is. You already have tons and tons of information. So if you are expecting that we are going to have some discussion about what is a manager and what is a leader, that is not going to happen here. I assume you already know the difference. And I am assuming that you know the difference, and I am also assuming that you are already a leader. You know what the good leader is. And another assumption I have is that you want to go to the next level. So you want to move from good leader to great leader, and that is exactly what we want to discuss here. And feel free to interrupt me if you have any question, or if you are want to give me any feedback. So this is, I'm just setting the ground that all of us are on the same page. So let's start our discussion from the leadership. And probably you saw tons and tons of examples and tons of definition of the leadership. And I'm going to pick one definition, and that is from the Peter G. Northouse. And this is a very good book. The name of the book is the Leadership Theory and Practice. I picked this definition from the 7th edition. And the good thing about this book is it is not only explaining the definition, but it also gives the historical context of how we come to this definition, and historically what was the different definition of the leadership in past. So here leadership is a process where individual influence a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. And here take a look at the things. It is a process. If I want to pick the keyword, so it's a process, it's an influence, and it's a common goal. That is what we are trying to do here. So it is not like that this is our end goal and now we got the title of the leadership, so and now it is our destination. It is an ongoing process and we are continuously improving on this thing. And the another my famous definition is, or if you want to call it metaphor, is this is from the Agile Leadership Toolkit book. He's a PhD, definitely teaching the PAL-E course. So leader is like a farmer who doesn't grow crops by pulling them, but instead create a perfect environment for crops to grow and thrive. And if someone is assuming that if you are trying to pull the crops, then that's how they will grow the plant, that is not going to happen. And the same is true if we are trying to pull the peoples by assuming that they are going to grow without any influence, then that is not going to happen. So let's play a game. Are you ready for the game? And the rule of this game is unmute yourself. If you already know the game, then do not participate and do not unmute. So this time I want all of you to be unmute. I want to hear your voices.
Hi, Zeeshan.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to know. So you may need a paper, pen, or calculator. even the notepad or the computer would be fine. And I'm expecting that you might need to do some calculation. Calculation only contains plus and minus. That's it. Only the elementary school math. Only plus and minus, not even multiply, not even divide. If you can do it mentally, awesome. If you need pen and paper, sure. I promise there is going to be only plus and minus, nothing else. There are going to be multiple steps, and the rules of the game is you have to give the answer only at the end. You are not supposed to give the answer in between. Although you are on mute, you can do the calculation, you can do the calculation while speaking, but not telling the answer. And every step will be displayed for only 20 seconds. And I am not going to repeat this step. So you have to be very careful. There are 6 steps, only 20 seconds, one step. I am not going to repeat this step. And if you already know the game, do not spoil. Please mute yourself and do not play the game. Just tell me when you are ready.
I'm ready.
Ready? Majority. I even cannot see how many people are on the call. So just tell me, whoever is moderating this thing, Vamsi, Mohsin, or whoever is.
There are 15 people, including us, and still half of the people, they are on mute. What we should do about them?
So either they don't want to play, or it's fine, but it is a fun. It's a fun game.
Okay. Okay, there should be some game, like if people are not unmuting that, how we can unmute that. I really like that. So it's perfectly all right. Yeah.
So Mohsin, just tell me when we are ready. So I am going to put some sort of timer in, or some sort of assuming that 20 seconds is happening. So just tell me when we are ready. I will move forward.
So guys, if you are ready, you can use the thumbs up reaction on Zoom. So everyone should participate. I could get only 2 people giving the thumbs up. There are 5, 6. It's getting very slow. It's slowing down. Okay. So
okay.
I think we are ready. Yes.
Okay. And I will be quiet. You have to read and you have to analyze the slide and do the calculation.
Okay.
Ready for question? This is the last step.
Yep.
It was me.
This is Swami.
It's us. I thought we were driving the bus.
So what did you learn from this exercise?
We assumed about the driver name. I didn't read carefully whether it is I or we, what is written there.
Yes. So the fun part of this
Right.
story is all the calculation is useless. You can add as many steps as you want. And I only added the 6 step, but play with the kids and the other friends, add 10 steps, 20 steps, do whatever calculation you want. Be sure that you are not removing more passengers than they are already in the bus. That is the only constraint. You have to be careful. But other than that, add as many steps as you want. The whole point is that after some times, people actually forget the first step. And it happens to me several times. Then people are doing the calculation and they are so much involved in the calculation. And when I ask that, what is the name of the bus driver? So, how can I tell? And there is a reason I actually introduced this activity and this exercise, and that is related to the Miller's law. So Miller's law, and be careful if you're trying to search the Miller's law on the internet, then there are actually 3 Miller's law. One is related to the communication, one is psychology, and one is software development. And here I'm discussing with respect to the psychology. And the psychology Miller's law is presented by the George Miller. This is a picture of the George Miller, and it is one of the most cited people in the psychology. And they are saying that the human can hold the working memories approximately 7, or in some ways they are saying 7 plus minus 2. And that is actually the name of the article. If you want to search, is the magical number 7 plus or minus 2. And maybe that is the reason. I'm not trying to make exact concrete conclusion, but that is one of the reasons that if you are trying to correlate with the Scrum, so the optimal team size is 7 plus minus 2, although they are not doing 7 plus minus 2, they are saying 3 to 9, but that's another story. It is not directly related to the Miller's law, but there is some relationship that if we are having the larger and larger team, then we cannot hold the things. And the previous activity is related to this thing. That practical demonstration that we might forget the first step if we keep doing these things. And there are tons and tons of examples like this. If you're trying to search on the internet, you will find tons and tons of examples. And why we were discussing this thing when we were discussing about good to great leadership. So now I am actually going to show you some of the models which are already presented. And probably you notice one thing is very similar to almost all of the models they are in this range. So they are not going to create a steps that is like a 13 steps or 25 steps. So people will not going to remember it. So they are trying to create models in that range so people can keep that in their working memory. So I'm not going to discuss that models in very much detail. It is just for the reference purpose. If you want to take a look at in more details. So this is actually presented in Harvard Business Review in 1973. I can provide all the references. Actually, there is one slide at the end that is providing all of the references. So that is telling you how we are moving from the control mode to the leadership mode, the Tannenbaum-Schmidt model. And there is another model that is from again from the Harvard Business Review, published in 2005, 7 transformation of the leadership. Here we again discuss from the opportunities diplomat to all the way to the alchemist. And John Maxwell, one of my favorite author, explained the 5 level of leadership. That is exactly what the name of the book is, the 5 level of leadership. Everything starts with a P, so you can call it 5P model, although they are not calling it 5P model. And this next is the very much famous book in the agile domain, agile area. So this is from Bill Joyner and Stephen Joseph. So this is from the leadership agility, if I remember the book name correctly, from expert, achiever, catalyst, co-creator, synergist, and they also have some other dimensions. So we can have the whole discussion, whole topic, whole presentation, whole speak on each on different models. So that is not the plan. That is just setting the stage that what we are doing is what we have already, what the other people have already discovered, already literature is available. So we are trying to do something different than these people's what they have done. And now we are going to the next step. So this is one of my favorite author. It is actually author from the coaching domain. So if someone is in the professional coaching, then they already know this author. So the famous book is The Coaching Question, or the Leadership Coaching Discipline Skills. And he actually mentioned a very important point. And the important point is we have to grow as a leader, and we have to increase our ability. We have to increase our responsibilities. And now, before moving forward, I know some of you might be waiting for the good to great leadership model. I have another game. So let's play another game. Ready for the game?
Yes, we are.
Ready?
Okay, the rule of this game is I'm going to display a 4-digit number, and you have to add 1 at each digit and speak loud at 1 second at a time interval, like some sort of rhyming, some sort of rhythm. So if the number is, for example, 5820, then you have to read it like 6931. Make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Ready to do it?
Yes.
Okay, let's do
Ready.
it.
Let me request all of them.
So the name of the game is Add One.
Okay. Shall we start?
Sure. Number is here.
732
7326.
1 second interval. 7, 3,
Okay.
2, 6.
All right.
6,
5,
5 2
2,
4
4,
4,
9,
9.
9
3,
3,
3,
9,
0, 7, 2,
7, 2.
2.
Awesome,
Three,
awesome. It's a
10.
0. It's a 0. It's a after 3, it's a 0.
yeah,
0, 3,
3,
3,
8,
3, 8,
8,
5, 4.
5,
5,
4.
4.
We are not supposed to read it immediately. It's a 1 second interval. It is not
Okay, okay.
3, 8, 5, 4. It is 3, 8, 5, 4. That was actually a warm up.
We should,
Now the
we
real game
should
is.
set a penalty.
This is just a warm up. This is just a warm up. Add one
Okay.
is a warm up.
Okay.
This is a real game.
At 3.
Yes.
9,
9,
9,
5,
5,
4,
4,
4,
8,
8.
8,
8. 7,
7,
7,
4
4,
4,
6,
6,
6.
1,
11. 5,
7,
5,
2
2,
9
9,
9, 4,
4,
5,
5
5,
0
and
0,
0,
5
7,
7,
6.
6.
6.
Awesome. And some of you might notice it is exactly the same number I mentioned in add 3 and add 1. It's the same activity. Maybe some of you notice, maybe some of you not. I give you the same number. Which one you find it easy and which one you find it difficult?
Add
Adding 1
1
is easier.
Adding 1 is easy or adding 3 is easy?
Adding 3 was easy because
Adding 1
adding 1, I couldn't figure out what the hell is going on.
By the way, I haven't created more slides for this thing, but if you want, you can do it add 4, add 5, add 7, whatever you want. So this is actually a game for a different purpose, but I think it is a nice use here. And if you want a reference, the reference is actually from the Daniel Kahneman book, The Think Fast and Slow. It's an awesome book, and that person is actually won the Nobel Prize in economics for inventing the new field, behavioral economics. So this is from that book, Think Fast and Slow. It's an awesome book. I highly recommend that book. So the whole point is that, and that book is actually discussing about the system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. One is a logical, one is the intuition. So here you are doing the logical thinking. And when we are doing the logical thinking, we are very much focused. We are doing the calculation. And when we are doing the calculation, then probably we are not paying attention to the other things. And this is happening all the time. And that is what the book is all about, the system one thinking and system two thinking. The point I wanted to mention here, and here I'm going to create a segue for our presentation, is if we are doing just two things, then it will be easy. If we are doing more than two things, here in this particular example, we are doing the add 3, and if you are trying to make it more complicated, add 4, add 5, add 6, then it is going to be more and more difficult. And that is why I try to keep it simple from only good to great. I'm not trying to make it super complicated, and that was the whole point. But before moving forward, I have a question. What do you think is the difference between good and great?
Good is great.
Nice one. Any other?
Well, if we compare it with good, he's better than the other goods. I mean, the other good people. He's great.
More perfection, more improvement.
Yeah,
Let's take a look at.
it's based
Okay, so let's see one of my favorite quote from the Albert
taking
Einstein.
things one step.
I'm sorry, can you repeat, please?
Yeah, I was just saying that I think it's about taking things one step above.
Yes, we are getting better and better. We are going to the improvement. Yes. So let's take a look at one of our favorite quote from the Albert Einstein.
I like the picture.
Intellectuals solve the problem. Genius prevent them. So do you want to be intellectual or genius? Okay, we already saw the Miller's law.
Better to be genius, yep.
So we already saw the Miller's law. Now there is a new research, and the new research is from the Nelson Coleman, and they said the magic number is actually not a 7. The magic number is for 4 for the short-term memory. And this is from the Cambridge Behavioral and Brain Science. They published this article in Behavioral and Brain Science. I can give you the reference of that one also. And maybe you notice that a lot of models are actually in the form of 2x2 grid. So they have the 4 categories. You can find tons and tons of examples, whether coming from the Mike Sahota book, whether coming from the stakeholder management, whether coming from the communication model. There are lots and lots of models. They have some sort of 2x2 grid. And you are supposed to do something in that grid because that people can easily remember. And that is exactly the reason I wanted to create my models for having only 4 dimensions. So if I'm going to have more and more dimensions, then it will be difficult to even remember. Now I have a question for you. How many models did I present till now?
4.
No prize for guessing. 4. That is the reason I presented the 4 models. Bonus question. Does anyone remember which 4 models I presented?
Miller's law.
Yeah. There was one about
Tannenbaum, David Rook and William, John Maxwell, Bill Joyner. So these are the 4
I
models.
think there was one about
yeah, I can represent more models, but just to make it align, I presented 4 models. And those are not the only 4 models. There are a lot of other models. So now let's come to the 4C model. So this is a 4C model I created, and my dimensions here are actually coach, care, cultivate, and change. And I created 3 factors in each dimension. And here in this discussion, we are going to discuss the overall model. And this is the first time I'm actually speaking in this model. So this is a prize for you. So this is the first ever public speaking on this model. And you can find it on the Best Agile article book. You can find it on my LinkedIn, and maybe I will publish it in other locations in future. And let's take a look at it in a little bit more detail. And let's see what is in this model. So starting with the coaching. So what is the coaching? Coaching is about unlocking the personal potential, people's potential. It is not about where we have the assumption of the sports coach, where a sport coach is telling what you are supposed to do and what you are not supposed to do. If that is the case, then this is actually one of the very misused terms. It is pretty much like a mentor. And one of my favorite metaphor in that case is, and I think I used it in one of my writing, is when you are driving with the GPS on, but the navigation off. So if your GPS is turned on, then you know where you are. GPS is telling you your current reality, removing your blind spots for you. You can only see on whatever is in front of you, but GPS is actually telling you what is behind you, if there is a traffic jam in front of you. But GPS is not telling you exactly what to do. The navigation is off. You have to make decision yourself. So that is what the coaching is. And here there are 3 factors, and I used to call these factors is pretty much like a mentor to coach, how to why, and problem solver to create a problem solver. Let's take a look at these 3 in a little bit more detail. So a good leader has a great answer. A great leader has a great question. And some of you who already have an experience of the coaching probably can correlate this thing, that here we are actually discussing about moving from mentor to coaching approach. So if we provide the answer, then we actually catch the fish for a person. But if we ask the question to let them realize, then they will know exactly how to solve the problem themselves, and they will be independent of us. Good leader knows how, great leader knows why. And if you want to take a look at a little bit more deep, then I highly recommend take a look at the TED Talk of the Simon Sinek, Start with the Why, or the book of the Simon Sinek, Start with the Why. So we need to understand the why part first. It is not only enough to tell how to do this thing. It is not only enough to tell what you are supposed to do. Yes, good leader tells how and what, but what makes it different from the great leader is great leader tells why we need to do this thing. So there are something on the chat. Mohsen, can you please keep track on the chat and let me know if there is any question or comments?
There is any question. Those were comments in the earlier activity.
Okay. So next thing is a problem to solution. So here it is about the problem solver to create a problem solver. So good leader knows how to solve the problem. But the great leader, instead of trying to solve the problem themselves first, the great leader actually grow the peoples so in such a way that the peoples can solve the problem themselves. Here, one of my favorite metaphor is pretty much like a coach or a snooker or billiard. So if you are playing the snooker, then there is a white ball and there are the colored ball. So you are not hitting the colored ball directly. You are hitting the white ball, and white ball hit the colored ball. So the great leader, the great coach work on the person so person can solve the problem. So here, my tagline is, it is from problem solver. The good leader is a problem solver. We are moving from problem solver to create problem solver. So now instead of I am solving a problem, I am creating a person who are solving a problem. So these are the 3 factors in the coach. Obviously, we can go in more detail, but this is just an introductory session. Second thing is a care. Empathy, one of the main attribute of any leader. And if I want to pick only one out of these 4, then my choice is care. I'm not sure what is your choice, but my choice will be care. Because you can be whatever you want, but you cannot be a leader without a care. Because without a care, you cannot create an influence. And without influence, there is no leadership. Leaders are created by the followers. Leaders are created by the influence. Let's take a look at the 3 factors in this one. So here the 3 factors I used to call it in the same tagline approach, same mechanism, listener to transformer, problem solver to opportunity creator, supporter to promoter. Take a look at this one by one. Good leader listen to you. A great leader listen for you. What does it mean? I was reading in one of the literature and they said that the best you can do, at least the best you can do for someone is listen to the person. So yes, every good leader, and here when I'm saying the good leader, I literally means the leader. I'm not saying about the manager. I'm not having that discussion about the manager to leader. I assume you are a good leader. I assume when I'm saying the good leader, it is genuinely a good leader. So good leader listen for you. That shows the care, that shows the compassion, that shows the empathy. But what the great leader is doing, great leader not only listen to you, but listen for every other opportunities for your growth. So that's what I'm saying, listen for you. So he is looking for opportunity. How can he helps you to grow, to transform? And that is what I used to call it, listener to transformer. Good leader solves the problem. Great leader creates, convert problem into opportunity. We already discussed one thing from solving the problem. Now we are looking from a different angle where we were transforming, we are reframing, we are providing the different perspective. I actually have the whole article written on this one. And I was blessed enough that that article is also selected as best agile article in 2019. And that explain how can we reframe the situation? How can we providing a different perspective to convert our problem into opportunity. One of my favorite thing in this one is from a very famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Although this is a financial book, but they are providing tons and tons of examples related to the reframing. And one of my favorite example is if there is something expensive, the poor dad said that we cannot afford this. So their mind stopped thinking. But the rich dad is looking at differently. They said, what can I do to make it affordable? So it is not about stop thinking. It is about looking at opportunities. How can I convert it in such a way that I can afford? And in this context, we can say, okay, I'm not a good leader. I'm not a great leader. But instead of thinking on those lines, why not think on those lines? What can I do to be a good leader? What can I do to be a great leader? What can I do to take an opportunity to learn something from it? And that is what my point is. Convert problems into opportunities. So this is supporter to promoter. Good leaders support you. And that is what by definition is good leaders support you. Good leader from good leader to great leader. Great leader, when there is a success, put you in front. The great leader do not want to take the credit. And if there is a failure, put you behind and take all the blame. And that is what I called is supporter to promoter. This is what my tagline is. So good leaders support you in all the situation, whether it's good or bad, but great leader promote you. In case of success, put you in front. In case of failure, put you in behind. Take a look at the next dimension, cultivate. This term comes from the agriculture, but it is very much aligned with the leadership because that's what the leader is doing, the cultivating the peoples, the growing the peoples. So it is mean the foster for growth, and it is one of the main attribute for the leader. And I think after the care, this is the most important thing. So if the leader is not doing the cultivation, then you can call a person anything but a leader. A person is doing only the care but not the cultivation, then you will say, okay, that's a nice person, he is caring everything, but the person is not growing the other people. So it means that a person is not a leader to grow the other peoples. So here, three of my factors are follower creator to leader creator. motivator to environment creator, and improve others to improve self. Let's take a look at one by one. Oh, I think I got 2 steps ahead. No, good. So here, a good leader creates a follower. A great leader creates more leader. So if you want to study in more detail, there is a whole book on this one, and that is based on the true story, turning the ship around. And that in some of you who actually studied the SAFE probably hear about the decentralized decision making. If I remember, that's a principle 9, and that is coming from here. So instead of you are trying to create followers who are just blindly follow you, you are trying to create a more leaders. And one of my tagline is, you cannot be a leader until you create a leader who can also create a leader. Because if you just create a followers, then the chains stop here. But if you are a leader who also create a leaders, then at least things move forward. But in the second level, the chain stop here. But if you are in this mindset that you can only be a leader, you can only call yourself to be a leader when you create a leader and they can also create a leader, then the chain will continue. So it means we are going to create more leaders. We are not creating only the followers who are blindly following whether they agree the things or not. And we saw it all the times. A good leader motivates you. A great leader creates an environment which motivates you. There is no question that good leader motivates you. But what about the situation when the leader is not around? The good leader is not around. Are you still feeling motivated? Maybe yes, maybe no. But what the great leader is doing, the great leader actually creates an environment. So whether he is in that environment or not, whether he is present or not, the people are always feeling motivated. I actually wrote a whole article on this one also, and how we can do this thing. So instead of focusing on a specific motivation model, there are a lot of models, theories based on the process, based on the context, extrinsic motivation, intrinsic motivation. There are a lot of theories. Instead of going in that direction, we will be going in a direction of sense-making model or meta framework, where we are creating a model that is more suitable for that context, for that group of people, for that environment. So you are creating an environment in such a way that helps people to keep motivating. My next factor is good leaders give the feedback. Yes, feedback is important for the growth. But the great leader not only give the feedback, but also receive the feedback. So this only not creating the openness. It's only not creating the more trust factor, but also this helps the great leader to grow themselves. And we already saw at the beginning that the great leader, it is a process, it is a journey. The great leader always grows. They're always getting better and better. They want to be a better at themselves, and they want to be a better for the peoples around them. My last dimension is a change. Every leader is going to make a change, regardless of this is a big change or a small change. They are going to make an impact. They are going to leave the mark. And my 3 factors in this one is outcome to vision. Doing the right things to doing the things right to doing the right things. And my favorite one, I will keep it at the last, person to societies. So take a look at this one. Good leader focus on the outcome. Great leader focus on the vision. Great leader focus on the impact he's creating. Here, I can again go on and on for a lot of different examples. For example, running 5 miles a day to lose the weight. So focus is outcome. But what is the impact? What is the vision? I want a healthy life. passing the exam, passing the certifications, getting the credentials. That is the outcome. But what is the impact? What is the vision? You want to do the knowledge seeking things. And we can apply in a lot of different contexts. If you guys are focused more on the agile, then we can discuss all those type of things. Number of certificate peoples, number of PMP holder, number of Scrum Masters or Scrum Alliance or Scrum.org certificate, or creating a real impact in the organization. So good leader focus on the outcome, great leader focus on the impact. And here I am actually throwing a question that what are we getting that is the outcome versus what are we aiming? That is a vision, that is an impact. Ask yourself the question, what are we getting and what are we aiming? And tie this back to what we started at the beginning, why we want to do this thing. Start with the why, not with how, not with what. Good leader does the right thing, things right. Great leader does the right thing. How many times we came across a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different decisions. And here the great leader makes the decision, okay, this is important. We are going to do these things. Maybe some of you who have done some sort of PMI training can correlate these things. So if you are discussing at the project level, if I'm using the PMI vocabulary, then at the project level, we were focusing on things right. But if you are at the portfolio level, then instead of focusing on the things right, we are focusing on the right thing. Which project is important to do? Which initiative is important? And we can apply it all levels. Which book is important to read now? Which webinar is important to read now, attend now? Which mentor is important? So instead of focusing, good leader focusing on things right, great leader focusing on the right thing. And this is my favorite one. Good leader transform the person, great leader transform the societies. Great leader is not limited to only individual group. Whether the group is based on the language, the region, the nationality, or anything at all. Whatever the great leader you can think of in your mind, that leader discuss something that transform the whole societies. I actually presented 2 examples, but you can come up lots of different examples. I presented the example of Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King. They created the whole societies. They transformed the whole societies. And this is my dimension, is from person to societies. And that's what makes him different from good leader to great leader. I was continuously keeping an eye on the clock, and I'm glad that I'm under the time box. So what is next here? This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the first of the 13-part series, and maybe more. I already planned for the 13 parts. For one, you already saw that's the overall picture, and then one for each factor. So there are 12 factors. So 3 out of those is already out. This one and 2 more is already out. So this is just a first step. This is just a map. This is just a starting. And there is going to be much more. This is not a 2-day course that you will attend the 2-day course and become a great leader. It is a journey. It is a growth. We have to continuously working. I have to continuously working. All of us has to continuously working on this thing towards that journey. And this one just laid the foundation. This session, this article, this work is just laid the foundation to give you a direction. If you want to focus on some areas, what are the areas you need to consider? These are the things I consider important, and I experienced it. I applied those things. There may be other areas, but this is just a starting point. Now, the question for you is, what is your next step? What are you going to do to become a good leader, to great leader? Or if you are not a good leader, what are you going to do to become a good leader? That is a question all of us have to ask with us. It is not about attendance. It is not about some credentials. It is not about getting some certifications. It is not about a piece of paper, because that can probably help you to reach to the good leader. That can probably help you to reach to the outcome. But is it enough to create an impact? Is it enough to become a great leader? Does any of the great leader attended any of those certifications? Have you ever heard the Martin Luther King attended these classes or certifications? Ever heard the Nelson Mandela attended these type of things? So we have to see what those great leaders are doing and how can we move forward in those directions. As promises, there is references. And one of the favorite questions, 100% of the time I ask, whether it is my presentation or someone else's presentation, how can I get the slide deck? Don't worry, I will give the slide deck to Mohsin and Mohsin will give it to you, whatever the mechanism is. So you will get all these things. So these are the references I was mentioning during the presentation. So I know we have only few minutes remaining for the time box, but still I will stop here and I will ask if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Zeeshan. We have few questions on the chat box. So let me start asking the question. So the first question is it the everyday practice which come with experience?
Every day I just saw that it's a Bushra. So Bushra, Bushra, can you please elaborate a little bit more? What do you mean by that?
Thank you, Zeeshan. My meaning is when no, maybe people say that some leaders are good, some are not good. So what I see is it the daily practice, how we see things and adopt things, and then we change our perception, we improve
Okay,
ourselves, our behaviors. Yeah.
sure, sure. And I will say with the same thing with Simon Sinek said, it start with the why. You want to understand why we are doing this thing. In fact, you have to ask the question why you attended this particular session. What is the impact you are going to create? What is the change you are going to create? So whatever the action you are going to take, start with the why. That can be your daily practice. You can start with your daily practice about if I'm going to create an impact, then whatever the things we are doing, whatever the things I'm doing, what impact it is going to create and why we are doing this thing. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay,
Zeeshan,
so
one question from my end. I'm seeing actually from industry point of view, there is a lot of people who are on a management seat and who are actually trying to be a good leader. But there are some different factors that includes the culture side, that includes the company environment and other areas. So in a such situation, what do you recommend for any persons to take the first step for a good leader? I'm not asking for the great leader, for a good leader.
okay.
Everyone would like to go for it, but there should be for the first step.
Okay, so this actually reminds me, if people who are in Karachi probably can correlate it easily. In Karachi IB office, they have one very big slogan written on the building, readers are leaders. So I am yet to see any leader who is not keen on reading. So I will say the very first step, if they are going to making anything, before doing anything externally, doing internally, is start doing the reading. I am yet to meet any person who is not reading enough. And there are tons and tons of students I came across. And when I asked the question, what was the last book you read? Most of the time, the question is related to the textbook prescribed to their subject. How many times we came across a person who reads something other than the textbook? So that is my first advice. And this is actually one of my favorite questions during the interview. If person is coming, okay, what was the last book you read? And that actually helped me to identify the person is actually moving towards for more in that direction of growing themselves or not. This reading habits shows that the person wants to improve. So this is my point is start from internal rather than trying to impose and trying to say, okay, I'm a good leader, I'm trying to change the others, I'm trying to make a good impact. It is start from internals, then goes from the others. One of my favorite author, most of you are already familiar with the Ashfaq Ahmad, said that if there is any pot, you have to clean the pot from the inside first, then go from the outside.
Can I add something here, Zeeshan?
Sure.
Who's the greatest Muslim leader that you know of?
Everyone knows the answer. No question. No prize for guessing.
Right.
Everyone knows the answer.
Was he a reader?
Sorry?
Was he a reader?
He is a reader creator. He is okay. Now we are going to a slightly different dimension. I don't want to include the religious part, but I will here only for a few seconds because I don't want to give the religious touch for this one.
That was just an extreme example. We have a lot of people like in our villages. We have jargas and stuff. A lot of those people are not readers.
Yes.
But they lead the villages and they lead the communities.
Mm-hmm.
Is reading really necessary to be a leader?
Reading is actually one way to gain the wisdom. That is not the only way. And those people who are living in the villages who are not able to read, but they are in that regard, they have the wisdom. So they are gaining the wisdom by the observation. They are gaining the wisdom by the others who provided the wisdom. So reading is one mechanism.
Right. So this is exactly my point was, if you want to be a leader, you have to be wise. And to be wise, you have to gain situational knowledge. You can do that by reading or by going out and living life and getting those experiences to actually be a leader.
So I started, thank you, Ghazala. I started with this thing. Sorry to cut you. I will give you mic again. So I started with this thing that start from the inner first, then go from the outside. And to start with the inner, reading is one thing, and that is especially for all of us who are joined here is easily available people's. The answer is related to the question for the person who are already in a managerial position. So the person who are in already a managerial position, they have no excuse to not doing a reading. Literally no excuse. We have the audio book, so they can do the reading while they can listen the books while driving, while doing on the treadmill. They can do that thing. But this is a mechanism that is helpful for them. But if mechanism is not helpful, they can use whatever is mechanism helpful for them. The important point is start from the inner, not from the outer.
That sounds good.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Zeeshan. And let me check. So Basit. So guys, you can jump up and you can ask your questions. This is open forum. So Basit, if I try to read your questions, so we can add like reading plus observation, which is again reading the environment. So Basit, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, I just want to complete both Zala and Dishan's things. Like reading is necessary to be a great leader, right? So sometimes people who don't able to read but still a great leader. So actually they are reading their environments. So again, we can say reading is always there. So they learn from their experience from people. They read their experiences. They read their environment. So reading is necessary, always there. So I just want to add comment. It's not my question.
Okay, thank you, Basit. And what I understood from Zeeshan's answer as well, and what I can mention from my own experience is the overall becoming, you can say, experience of becoming the leader. It includes a lot of things. So my question was related to what could be the first step. So that's also a good step to start with the reading. And again, if you see the vision, so start checking your inner side. And I have seen a lot of people, as also Ghazala also mentioned, that reading is one perspective, but we have seen some people who are not even very educated, but still their observation and their sense of seeing the situation is different. So this is again a reading, and this is again awareness to, you can say, to recognizing yourself, your inner side.
Mhm.
So yes, Zeeshan, please.
Thank you, sir. So again, I'm going to repeat, and there is actually one more question from Salman. So I want to repeat that the question for the reading is with respect to the context of the managers. But again, I don't want to create one, and that is what I call it sense-making framework versus framework. So one is called the framework. So you have a framework and you are trying to put a person whether you like it or not. And let me give you an example, which I just used the example for the movies. So if I created some sort of structure and I asked you to categorize the movies based on that structure, then you will be just dragging and drop two movies into the appropriate bucket. But whether it makes sense or not, whatever the structure you come up with. But even the bigger thing is that think about what structure is more suitable in that particular context and try to come up with a structure first and then place a bucket. So the main difference between these two is in a structural approach, we first have a framework and the data follows the framework. In sense making approach, we first have a data and the framework emerge from the data. And that is the other way around. So good leader have the framework and they put the data in that framework. But the great leader has a data and the framework emerge from that data that is applicable to that particular context. So the reading is applicable to the people who can afford to read. But if I'm trying to create a structure and trying to impose everything in that structure, that may or may not be applicable to all the situations. And here, the great leaders is actually trying to understand what is applicable to that particular context. For example, for the villagers, if I'm telling them, okay, go to take a look at the read of the Simon Sinek book or the John Maxwell book, they might not be able to even understand what they're talking because they cannot understand the language, they cannot understand the English. So it is not a wise idea to create one structures that applicable everywhere. So we have to use a sense making approach where the data precedes the framework, not the structural approach where the framework precedes the data. And now I want to go to the Salman approach. What are your assumptions on the team a leader is leading? Depending on the team and situation, a leader is sometimes become a mentor first before a coach. Salman, can you please elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, so basically what I follow that great and good leader example. So they're quite nice. But sometime you have a new team and the team has basically the participants. If you start with the making sure that you are asking them questions, that's always possible. But sometimes they need an example to show them before they can take that further and then enable their own potential and solve the problem in their own way. So what I think that for a different, so the assumption for a new team, a great leader is always who can switch gears and then identify the situation, and based on the situation, either he become a mentor for a while and then or become a highly directive or supportive behavior depending on the team situation.
Thank you. And you already answered the question. I said just a few minutes ago, the great leaders, instead of going from structure to impose something in that structure, they are going from data and emerge structure. It is, I'm going to repeat, sense making, trying to understand the sense first and then see what is applicable. I'm not going to create one particular prescriptions that is applicable to everywhere. Take a look at another example. Let me show you another example of one of my favorite author. And they are using the example of cook versus chef. What is the difference between cook versus chef? Anyone has any idea about related to cooking?
Yeah, I do a lot.
Okay.
Cook is following a recipe and chef is basically improvising and then looking at what needs to be done, and depending on that he basically
exactly creating the own recipes.
Yeah.
Because chef knows exactly what is the impact of this raw ingredient. So good leader is a cook, great leader is a chef. If you are asking me to give me a recipe to becoming a great leader, then it is basically a conflicting with each other. So great leader knows that this particular moment, the team requires a mentoring or the coaching or something else. So instead of trying to focus on this recipe and blindly follow that recipe, whether this may create an impact or may not create an impact, this is usually the good leader is doing. Yes, recipes are good and they are trying to make a little bit modification. If some ingredient is missing in the fridge right now, not in the kitchen, then you will try to come up with some alternate. So you can call it cook with little bit innovation. But chef is going to create the own recipes. Did I make it clear?
Yeah.
Interestingly, interesting. The caption is, "Did I make kill you?"
You kill the point. So,
for the sake of argument, two things. The one he said, where if we are asking you, if we ask someone for the recipe, we are then going to become a good leader, not a great leader. But also, great leaders also continuously do the continuous learning and improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody asking how to be even better doesn't necessarily mean they are only good. Right?
Yes, and we already have one point covered, and the point is the good leaders give the feedback. Great leader not only give the feedback but also receive the feedback. And
exactly.
That is the reason I actually mentioned this thing here and put it in my model, put it in the factor, that it is not about now you become a good leader. It is not a destination. You become a good leader and that's the end of the day. Now you are not going to improve. So great leader realize that they are continuously improving, and that is why the great leader needs the feedback. I also need the feedback. Give me the feedback so I can do it better next time.
When I'm attending these webinars, especially the ones which are focused on like the Eastern countries, Middle East, South Asia, I always hear them ask, "How do we become leaders?" Right? And I think the shortest shortcut, because we're like shortcut culture. I think the shortest shortcut is find the situation at work who nobody wants to address. Take over and address the situation and see through to completion. But if there's a problem at work that nobody wants to address, but everyone knows it exists, but nobody wants to touch it, take the problem and solve it. That will make you, that's the shortest shortcut to becoming a leader, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people,
Definitely we can do this thing. I want to make it a little bit broad in that way. So this one is solving the problem, but I want to make it one more approach that solve the problem plus help the peoples surrounding you. So it is problem is one dimension and people is another dimension. So solving the problem can make you a good problem solver, but until you involve the peoples in between and solving the problem in that mindset, okay, this time I'm solving a problem, but I'm educating you, so next time you don't need me to solve this problem, so you will be good enough to solve this problem yourself. So that will make you better position than just solving the problem. So my point is, start from wherever you want, start with the problem solving, sure, but involve people factor in between, because leader cannot be a leader without creating influence on the people.
that is absolutely true.
So I think that's a very good discussion. And if you start asking a lot of questions, and Zeeshan will be enjoying a lot. I know him very well. So Zeeshan, so this is a never-ending story. And so I need to end somewhere. But anyways, thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Geeta Ghazala, I think Geeta, she is there? Yes, she is.
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Geeta, any comments before we end the session? Ghazala already made a lot of comments, and Zeeshan is enjoying that. So I would like to ping you as well.
Before actually Geeta said to anything, Geeta, sorry to interrupt you. So I am very much thankful to the Geeta, because Geeta is literally proofread each and every sentence of my almost 80% of the articles. So thank you, Geeta. Geeta actually did a lot of proofreading on this article too. So whatever this article you will see right now, it is all thanks to Geeta.
Thank you, Geeta.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I really enjoyed this session, and actually I'm currently going through an agile transformation with a big company here in the US. And Zeeshan, I'm glad I attended this, because as I was listening to you, I was taking notes for myself, and I was like, oh, I need to think about for example, the vision, because to make sure that people understand why are we even wanting to roll out Agile within this particular organization? What's the benefit for it? And then what you mentioned, Zeeshan, not only just about incorporating self-motivated people, but creating that environment that the people feel motivated, which is crucial. I mean, why do I do the coaching? Because I want to create the environment that people feel motivated. So that those were like the two key points I can actually hands-on use right away on Monday, that having self-check of what I have done and what I haven't focused yet. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Geeta, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. And it was a fun session, by the way. We started with some activities. At one point, I was literally feeling that I'm sitting in my daughter's nursery class where I was trying to understand counting. And somehow Zeeshan woke us up that it's not the counting class. But anyways, guys, thank you very much. And we'll be having more interesting and fun sessions in the coming weeks. And just to say, everyone, thank you, Zeeshan, for having a very great session. Let's have a very good weekend, everyone. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Allah Hafiz.
Bye.